Good morning. How to download and install Google Fonts free for commercial use, and how do you organize your fonts? So we are going to discuss that in this video. So if you are a graphic designer or you just start out designing your apparels and stationery or print on demand products, you will have a lot of fonts very quickly. But how do you organize your fonts? Sometimes you might have a lot of fonts, but you might feel like you don't have enough, or you might go back to very few numbers of fonts to use in your design, and it might make you feel like you don't have a lot of good fonts to use. And in case you are new to print on demand and you don't know where to find free fonts for commercial use, we can discuss that a little bit as well. But you should not be using fonts that are in your computer, like Microsoft fonts. They may not be free for commercial use. So if you are making design to sell, it's good you purchase fonts for commercial use or look for free fonts for commercial use. But having those fonts, if you do not organize them, you won't be able, you might even spend some time each time you design something going through your fonts. Click on one, check how it looks on your design, click on another one again, and it'll be a few minutes each time you are designing something to look for a font that will please your eyes, that you wanted to use for that particular design. But if you organize your fonts very well, you will have your fonts and how it will look, and you just look at it, go through it quickly to see which one you wanted to use in the design you are making. So let's get started. So at the end, we wanted to organize our fonts to look a little bit like what I have on the spreadsheet. And yes, I'm using a spreadsheet to organize my fonts. But where do you find free font to use for commercial use? To use for commercial purposes. There are different websites you can visit to download free fonts, but just make sure they are free to use for commercial purposes. So what we are going to use in this video is going to be fonts from Google. They are free for commercial use, but you can just type fonts free for commercial use and you will see fontspace.com, 1000fonts.com, and those two you'll be able to visit them to see if you what fonts they have that are free for commercial use. You'll also check creativefabrica.com. They sell fonts, but I think when you subscribe for their newsletter, often they'll send you their newsletter including a free font for commercial use. So those three could get you started if you are looking for free fonts, and over time if you want to purchase more you can, but first you need to know what you have before you determine whether or not you need to pay for some more. So I'm not going to look for fonts on those websites. I like to use Google Fonts. So I'm going to, and Google Font is font.google.com. But if you don't know the website, you can just type Google free font for commercial use. And Google free font for commercial use. You'll have fonts in plural .google.com. So I'm going to click on that. So first, how do you download Google free fonts for commercial use? So when you get to Google Fonts, because our goal is to organize our fonts. So we are not just going to download fonts without that in mind. So the way I like to do it is going to the category section. So that's the website Google Fonts. And you can see that you have some fonts already here. And automatically they are using one test to show how the font is going to look like. But I like to click on the category section, and you'll notice that all the type of fonts are selected. So they are all missed here, and I do not want that. So I like to, let's just click on one, for instance, that we want to download. Why not selecting display font, for instance? So by taking everything out and we select a display font, it's going to show us display fonts. And display fonts will be those fonts that are bold, large, that can be seen from far. So it can be used for headlines, probably titles. So if you are designing t-shirts, those display fonts will be those fonts that you wanted to consider first, because you want your text to be easy to read. So now we are just going to, and I mean, you can get more specific with the thickness as well to narrow it down, because you have 347 out of 1,291 families here to scroll through. You can narrow them down by thickness as well if you want. Otherwise, it will just show you what they have. So one thing you could do is having a spreadsheet. Having a spreadsheet, what you will do is you will create a spreadsheet and you will name the sheet. So we can just click on one here. So you will double click on the sheet name under the spreadsheet and you will type display, since that's the one we are working on. And inside you might want to add display, and you might also want to add the source of the font. So if you are getting it from Google, let me close this. If you are getting it from Google, then you might put down Google Fonts and make sure everything you download and you record on your spreadsheet are for commercial use, so that you don't get confused and use a font to design a product to sell if the font is not for commercial purposes. So let's scroll down, and as you scroll down, if a font is, you like the font and you wanted to use it, you can either write down the name of the font on your spreadsheet right away, or you can do that later. So, and I'm just going to just pick few, and because when you are looking at the font, you can get an idea what you can use it for. This one, for example, can be used for if you are designing a gaming shirts, a gaming type of design, for instance. It might feel like, yeah, it might work for it. So you have 300 fonts to go with, and let's say that we like this font. Then we can either write down the name, and I can just minimize my window here, and you should have font name, and under that you could write the name of the fonts that you're interested in. So you can either write down those fonts instead of clicking on every single one of them. You can just write down the ones that you like, and later you'll go back and type the one you wrote down and download them. So let's say that this script we like it, and as we look at it, we can say that it can be used for Halloween type of design. So then we can go back again and we can write it down. So let's say that we decided not to do that, but we decided to just, you know, click on it as we find something we like, we prefer to download it right away, we will do that as well. So, but sometimes I just prefer to look from, like, just look at them, and if I find something that I like, to write down the name of that font and then continue, because here I'm looking at the same type of text, and I can, you know, I can see which one I'm interested in. So I found this one that I like as well. So instead of writing it down, if I wanted to download it right away, I will just click on it. So when you click on the font, you'll have the font name. It will tell you that's just one style, so you only have regular 400, but you can scroll down and it will tell you a little bit about the fonts, semi-geometric. And if you scroll down, you'll read a little bit about the license. Those fonts are licensed under the open font license, so you may use them freely in your product and projects, print or digital, commercial or otherwise. So that's what you are looking for. So they are free for commercial use. So, okay, how do you download your fonts once you click on it? Let's scroll back up a little bit here. On top of the screen, they have download family. You will click on that. So when you click on it, it will automatically download and be at the bottom of your screen as a zip file. So it downloaded. So we leave it like that and we'll go back. So you need to go back up and click on back arrow to go back to the selections. So you can do that, and if we wanted to do it for the one we selected earlier, so it is free for commercial use, but the designer and a little bit about the font's name, a little bit about the fonts, and here you can see as well. And we will click on download family and it will download. Has not downloaded yet. Let's see if I'm having an issue with the internet now. So we will wait on the fonts to download, because when it downloads, you will see it at the bottom of your screen. And we will go back arrow, and this crisper, we'll click on that as well. We'll download it. So now that we have few fonts to work with, we can scroll down to check the license is free for commercial use. And we downloaded already. It's at the bottom of the screen. So now that we went through that process and downloaded the fonts, what I will suggest is you only download one category of fonts at a time. So if you wanted to download display fonts, you download display fonts, file them before you go back and download handwriting type of fonts. So I'm not sure I have this in my file, and it looks good as well, and it's free for commercial use. We will download it. So now that we know how to download Google free font for commercial use, and let's say that we downloaded all the display font we are interested in, the next step will be to file them. So it's good to create a folder, and I have one here, free Google font for commercial use. If you don't have one, you will create one. So you just right click, new, and you create a folder, and you name it where you found the font. So I do not want a new folder here, so let's delete that. And in fact, I shouldn't have deleted, so let's go through that process again. So let's say you find font from Google, so you can put Google fonts, and you click inside of it, and you create another folder, and we can name this one display. And inside this folder, we will go to download section of our computer. So on the PC, you wanted to go to downloads. Downloads will have those fonts that you downloaded. So you will click on one to select. You press Control key on your keyboard. You press and hold that Control key, and you click on each one of them to select. So you right click. Now I don't have my finger on Control key. I right click, and I'm going to cut them because I don't really want to have a lot in this session. So I will click on the arrow to go back. That's why I went and created the folder first and went from that session. So under Google and display folder, I will paste my fonts. So let me copy the fonts from here because I already have a folder for it. So I'm not going to cut it, but I'm going to copy it, and I'll get out of that display this Google folder that we created, and I will go to display. I'm not seeing display here. Oh, here I have display fonts here, and I have, okay, I don't have display font. I have display fonts here, and I can just paste it. So if you have downloaded some fonts before for that category, you can just save your new fonts zip folder there. So if there is one that you have already, it will tell you that you already have it. So you can just skip that files and save the rest. So one thing that will work for this is, if you are recording your fonts, you might, while they are still in the download session, you might record them from there, or if you add them to your display fonts, they will reorganize themselves, so they might be mixed with the others. But if you click on date modify, it will show you either the fonts you have downloaded recently or the one you have before. So each time you click on it, it will reorganize those. It will either show you the oldest ones or the newest ones. So you can click on that to reorganize your fonts to show you by date. You don't click on the name, but you click on the dates, and it will just show you the one you recently downloaded. So now that we downloaded display fonts, we want to organize the fonts. So we are trying to type it, but we didn't finish it. So if you are creating a new spreadsheet, that's the way you'll do it. So let's add them here. One easy and simple ways to do it will be just to look at the name and type it. But if you want to avoid mistakes, one thing I like to do is I like to click on the zip folder, click again to have the name selected, and then I'll press Control key on my keyboard and I'll press C. I'll hold the Control key and then I'll press C to copy. Or you can right click and copy as well. And then I'll go to my spreadsheet, Control key, press and held down, I'll press V to paste. So to do that, you will need to minimize your screen for the folder, and you need to minimize your screen for the spreadsheet so that they both can fit your screen for you to process your recording quickly. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we have those 3 here. And you'll notice that they are now organized alphabetically. So you will download your display fonts, you will file them, and you will record their name on your spreadsheet. So if the name is now organized, if you have the fonts already saved, when you open the folder, it's going to organize it for you alphabetically. So because I click on the dates, it changes it. But if we get out of that and we go back in it, yeah, it's still showing us how it was before. But when I click on that date modify, it had it. But you'll notice that they are now organized alphabetically. So maybe if you click on the name, it will, but I think usually it should organize it. Let's click on handwriting fonts. And I have a feeling like this is organized already. So if you already have your font saved on your computer, they are organized. You have your spreadsheet, you can just click and write them down or copy and paste them down. Yes, that's a long, yeah, it takes a while to get that done, but it needs to be done. Okay, so now that we have our 3 fonts, let's click on this again to have them up because we have not installed them yet. So now that we have them on the spreadsheet, let's go and install them. So how do you install the fonts that you downloaded to your computer? So you double click, that's a zip folder, so you double click on the folder, and the first one here, the file is the font file, and the OFL is probably the license. Let's click on that. That's a notepad type. She'll tell you a little bit about the license. So you will download the file, the fonts, and it will come in a zip folder with the license as well. So I'm just going to close that notepad, and what we are interested in is the font's name. So that crystal regular is the font. So you double click on it, and it will open a window that will show you how that fonts look like. And on top you have print and you have install. So yeah, you can print the fonts out to have a record of how they looks, but I think that'll be a lot of paper to go through. So we want to install it, so we will click on the install button, and if you downloaded and save some fonts that you already downloaded before and installed, it will tell you that you already have it installed. But if that's new, that will go through that process and that window will close, and then you close this window, you go back to your display folder, you click on the next, and you click on the fonts, and you install it, then you close out of it. And sometimes some fonts will come with multiple style inside. You just have to click on each one of them and install them if you want to install them all. So we'll click on install, and that install it. So if, let's see, this one I installed it already, but let's go through that. Let's see one example that will come with, don't know if I have one here that has multiple in it. But yes, some of them will come with more than one. But if you have this style and you didn't think you already installed it, when you click on install, it will tell you that you already have it installed. So you just click on replace it, you just click on no, you close everything else, and you get out of it. So that's how you install your fonts. So if your fonts are now automatically activated in your computer, you can restart your computer, like turn it off and turn it back on, and it should be activated in your computer, ready to go. So now that we installed the fonts that we downloaded, let's go organize them. So we have our spreadsheet, we have the fonts. What I like to suggest is you type a text, a long text that has numbers in it as well. Because the reason of typing the text is for you to be able to use it to see how that font looks like. So you can type an example of text where you use caps, lowercase, numbers, and since we have display fonts, let's add those three that we don't have. But before I do that, we have a text there. Let's add it. I'm kind of surprised. Okay, I see why, because this display I didn't write it well, and this one I got it right. So that's why they all are there without problem. So when you type your text, you can just copy a Control C. You select all the rows that you wanted to paste it in. You press Control and you click and you press V on your computer to paste it. So we have it like that. So now let me copy this from here, and I like to go all the way to the end of it. And I will paste it. It's a little bit too far. Okay, so the next step after you paste your, after you have everything, the next step will be to select the font, because we want space between them. First, let's organize the font that we downloaded. If you already have them organized and you are adding more to it, you will need to select everything. So let's go. First, let's try it with this one here. So to organize your fonts alphabetically, let's say that you have another, in fact I didn't paste this one in the right column. What I like to do is have some notes for some font. So if you have some rows and you put some stuff in it, let's just add 2 rows here, and let's say you put some notes in front of some text, some note in front of some fonts. This one we can just say Halloween, for instance. And I don't even recall how this one look like anymore. Okay, anyway, so we have Halloween here. So when you have notes next to your fonts, when you wanted to organize the font alphabetically, you wanted to select all the columns that are involved here. So now that we got them selected, you'll go on top of your spreadsheet, and under format, we want to, no, it's not what I'm going to do first. Let me get out of the, you wanted to go to sort and filter. Sort and filter, you wanted to click on custom sort. And when you click on that, if you use Google Sheets has a way to custom sort as well. But this one is the spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet version. So you wanted to, yeah, it's sorting A to Z, but sort by, you look at the column that has the font name. That's what you wanted to sort based on. So that's column C. You click on that. So that's column C that has the font name, and we click OK. So when you click OK, you will notice that it organized, it sorted the fonts alphabetically for us, but Halloween is still in the same, on the same row as Cripster. So that's what you want. You wanted to select everything and organize by font names, so that you can keep your notes next to the fonts you want them to be. So, but if you already have fonts and you added more to it and you want to mix them all together and organize it, in this instance I need to select everything, and let me see here, at this point I don't even have them all, like I try to separate them based on the dates that I uploaded them, I installed them. But now let's, and you'll notice that some of the fonts I have yellow selection next to a column. So I wanted to reorganize those fonts and make sure the one that I have I have a yellow highlight next to it, stay the same. So I'm going to pretty much select all the columns that have data related to the fonts. I'm going to select them all the way to the bottom so that I can just organize sort everything together. So I'm going to click on that filter, custom sort, and I'm going to sort by C, not by B but by C, and I'll click OK. And when I do that, I'm looking for one that has a yellow highlight earlier. It started with U, I believe. Yes, so you'll notice that we still have the highlight there. So the one that I have that highlight next to, pretty much it kept my notes and my highlight next to the font because it sorted everything by font for me. So now that we got all of that, you'll notice that this one, the size of the cell is not as the way I want it. So let's go back to this and then we'll do that next step. So now that we have the fonts organized alphabetically, we want to increase the size of the height of the row. So you will select the text and you will click on format on top and you will click on row height, and it will show you what is already there, and that's 15. We want a 55 for instance, and you click OK, or you just press enter on your computer and that just space it out for us. And when it does that, it will do it for the fonts as well because it's by row. But now you'll keep your text selected, you go up and you click on mirror align. You move the text to the mirrors of the cell, and that's what we want. So now if you want, you can do the same for the font name, but I'm not really interested in that. So now the next step will be each text to reflect the fonts. So what you will do is, first you will click on the font name, and I went up and I selected and I click Control and I held it down and I press C to copy, or you can just right click and copy. But then I'll click on the text next to that font that I copied, and I'll go up. In fact, I skipped a step. I don't want to keep, after I increase the height of the row, I don't want to keep the text that small. So if you look up, you'll notice that is 11 point calibre. You can increase it to any size you want. I'm going to use 16. So I want all the fonts to have the same font size for the text, and then the text will reflect the font. So now I click out of the text rows to unselected, and then I will click on that. So we copy the font name. Let me copy again, in case it didn't do it for me. Now I'll click on its text and I'll go up next to calibre. When I click once, it will select it, and I'll do Control Paste to paste the font's name. And if that is already activated, since you already installed it, it will be there. And then I'll press enter on my computer and it will show me how it looks like. So I will do the same for crisp enter. So let's select that, and I will click on the text, and I will go up, and I will paste it there, and I'll press enter. And then I will click on, you can actually click on the text and then type the phone name up as well, but I just want to just paste it, and then I'll press enter and it show it to me. So I'm using font size 16, so they are all font size 16. And by doing that, if you have a lot of fonts, you will quickly go through it to see which one you want to use for the design you are working on, and you'll know if you have an idea for the type of the fonts you want to use. You'll see if you have it in your if you have it or not. So now let's go back to the spreadsheet that has the display font. So in case you don't know for sure if all the fonts are same size, because they may not be, we just downloaded some now and the cell for some are now wide. I'm going to select them all. For the test, I'll go to, we already filter alphabetically. Now I'll go to row height, and I'll put 55 because I have 55 and then some of them were 15. So now I'll click OK, and it will make it white for everything. And I will go on top here. I have 16, and I will have middle for all of them. So let's go back all the way to the bottom, and okay, we got everything organized and aligned the way we want it. So now we will need to find our fonts that we just downloaded. And one thing I will suggest will be the way we did it here. When you copy your fonts and paste it at the bottom of the existing font, I will suggest you don't filter, but I will suggest you go through the remaining process before you filter to organize it alphabetically. That way you won't go through the entire list looking for them. And right now I'm looking for them, and I came across this one that we just organized, Crystal, and is Calibri here. So let me show you another. If you wanted to type the font name, you'll notice that I click in the text cell and I can just type CR and it'll show me the font Crystal, and then I can click enter and you show it to me. So I know we have one in the M. So let's go under M. And MO, and I'm seeing Modern Love, and it's not that, so I need to continue. MON, and I'm seeing Mongolian Bite, it's not that, so O, and now I'm seeing the fonts that I'm looking for. So that's why I just prefer to copy the font's name and paste it instead of going through those selections. But that's just one way. Now we have one in the B. So you may not remember them all if you have a long list. So please paste them at the bottom of your existing fonts and click on each text and click on the fonts to copy and click on each text that the text that corresponds to that font. Click on that text and then paste the font's name up for that font, for the text to reflect that font. Do it for all the fonts you just downloaded, and now you can select all the fonts on the spreadsheet, that sheet, and format it to be the size you want for the height of the row, and then the font size to be the same, and click on middle align to put in the middle, and then you click on filter and filter based on the column's name that has the fonts. That way you won't go through your existing fonts looking for the one you just downloaded. So the one that I'm looking for is Black Ops 1. So I'm going to copy that name, Control C, and I'm going to click on the text, and up I'm going to paste a Control V. So now that we have our fonts organized, sorted, and filed and recorded on our spreadsheet, one thing you can do is, if you have a design you are going to work on ahead of time, you can just go through your fonts. You know, that's display font. Display font means it needs to be big, bold. So you can just go through them, and some of them might just please your eyes. Some of them you will like it for the purpose you wanted to use it for. The others could be like text. This depends on the type of designer you are. If you are designing apparels, well, you want fonts that, and keep in mind that display font could be serif or serif font, so that's something to keep in mind. So you might have them in both categories as well. So we do have sans serif and we have serif font. So, but yeah, so if you are designing stationery and you are making green card, so the font doesn't have to be bold, but maybe handwriting fonts might work for it. And you'll notice that this one, I organized I recorded my handwriting fonts, but I have not matched the font, the text to its font yet. But I just show you for the display one. So I need to go through it and work on those as well. In the past, I have pointed the name of the fonts out by category, and I note some for the reason I wanted to use them, but I don't know where I put them. And I have them in a sheet, plastic sheet, but I don't know where I put it. And then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to record them in a spreadsheet, and it just makes it easier, because it is easy for me to just go to a few fonts that I can remember how they look like and use them in my design, when I have more than that I could try to see how the end design will be. So you can go through your fonts based on what you use them most for, and you can either jot a note, you know, for what you are going to use them for. In this case, I just put a yellow here for the one that stood out, because they are display fonts, so I want them to be used for that reason. So for things that I want to for a design that I want the text to be easy to read, and you know, something like that. So some of them, you'll notice that they are just the letters are too close to each other. So if you want to use something like that, when I'm looking at it, I know that it can be great for a short text. That way I can scale the text to be very big on the products and easy to read. But that's something to consider as well. And this crisper, I think I didn't put the note here, but it's great for Halloween products. and that's something I can add a yellow tag there for. But I had to say it's not that easy to read like the others. That's something to consider as well. So I might probably make the text to be very short so that I can scale it enough to make it readable. So that's how you just go through your fonts and just highlight some of them that you are interested in. And one thing you could do is copy those rows to the top. You are now cutting them out of that list that you organized, but you can just copy it and insert it at the top so that you don't have to go through the list each time, but you just have those ones that you put a yellow highlights next to. You pull them at the top, so that when you are designing and you don't really have time to look around, you can just go through that short list very quickly and see what the font is best used for, is best fit for the type of design you are working on. That's one way as well. And to do that is you can just, let's say we like this one, for instance. I don't know if you see what I did, but I just click on the far left. Let me try that again. So I click on the far left and I'll right click and I'll click on copy. And when I go all the way up,